Feel free to do that. Second thing, I've muted your microphones. If you want to ask a question while I'm kind of going through the presentation, please do, but I ask that you use the chat function to do that. I will try to respond to questions as I'm going through here, but we also will have some time at the end for questions. So with that, let's get going. So that's me. I'm Chris Hanson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Data Bank. Just a little background on who I am. I've been working with nonprofits, primarily on individual donor development campaigns since 1985. And since the early 90s, really have focused on database and communications technology to help organizations like yours build support, build capacity. During the 1990s, I was managing director of a direct marketing firm in St. Paul called Direct Expressions. Some of our clients included Farm Aid and Ogallala Lakota College on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. In 1998, I co-founded the Data Bank for the purpose of providing nonprofit organizations with powerful, affordable database communication software. So in almost 40 years now, I've worked with thousands of nonprofit organizations to help build capacity to better serve their communities. A little bit about the Data Bank. We're a small private company located in St. Paul, Minnesota. We provide an easy-to-use, all-in-one cloud-based CRM system to nonprofit organizations. This is our 25th year in business. Seems kind of amazing. In 1998, we released the first commercial web-based fundraising management system called DonorMax. There's a logo of it. DonorMax is no longer in existence. Today, we just call our system the Data Bank. In 2000, we released one of the first online advocacy tools to help organizations easily impact public policy. That same year, we released our built-in email communications tool called PowerMail. And today, while still over half of our clients use their data bank to manage donations and memberships, all of our clients use their system to manage multi-channel communications, and a growing number use their data bank to manage complex relationships with various program stakeholders. And by the way, the GBC stands for General Benefit Corporation, which is a relatively new corporate status that we enacted here in Minnesota, specifically for-profit companies like the Data Bank that have a stated social benefit purpose. So here's what I'm going to be covering in today's webinar. First, I'm going to briefly go over some of the current challenges organizations like you face. And I know you're living this, so it's not going to be anything new for you, but I want us to all have sort of the same starting point of reference moving forward. Then I'm going to focus on two ways that we help community-focused organizations build capacity and create organizational efficiencies through communications and stakeholder engagement. And as I mentioned, we'll have time at the end for questions. So let's get going. All right. We all know that today everyone is bombarded by messaging from all sorts of sources. It's estimated an average individual will see or hear some 5,000 messages a day. Some estimates actually put this at as high as 10,000 messages a day. But regardless of the exact number, the challenge for any organization trying to communicate with individuals is how do you get heard through this tsunami of messaging? On top of just the sheer volume of messages is the growing diversity of your audience and the multiple channels that they use for sending and receiving messages. All of which begs the question of how do you best engage with your community of stakeholders to help your organization be more successful in accomplishing your mission. Now, if you're like most every other nonprofit organization I've ever worked with in the last 40 years, you have limited resources to do what you want to do. You never have enough money, staff, time, or technical resources to do the things that you would like to do. Most organizations working to build and strengthen their communities also work with multiple stakeholders in increasingly complex relationships. And the competition for finding and retaining these stakeholders is only increasing. So how do you build more capacity to do more? I'm going to show a couple of ways that we work with organizations like yours to do just that. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is communications. So, how do you use communications to build, sustain, and grow? Well, first off, there's no magic bullets. If someone tells you they have the magic tool to do this, I would be very suspect. I've been doing this, as I said, a long time. And while the tools and challenges of communication have grown, the process of engaging and building relationships is fundamentally the same. What we know is that there are tools and strategies that will help you be more successful in connecting with your community of stakeholders. So let's look at a few of those. The first, we all know that today, every organization needs to have a good website. This is how most people come in first contact with your organization. And we also know that if you build a website, people will not come. You need a way to drive traffic, and that's communications. So the first thing you need, and what are the keys then to good communications? First, you need to be using multiple communication channels to connect with your supporters. We also know that people want to be in charge of what messaging they receive and how they receive it. We also know that most communication today happens on cell phones, so it needs to be mobile focused. And finally, one needs to be able to analyze the effectiveness of their communications across all channels so they can become more effective in their communications. And let's take a look at each of these just a little bit more. As I mentioned, communications is a key to really building long-term engagement with your supporters. And here we see a path of supporter engagement that moves from the left, where you have a low level of engagement and really is just one-way communications where you're blasting a message out. As you move to the right, you see that the messaging becomes more complex. At the involved stage, now you have interactive two-way communications. You have a higher level of support engagement all the way down to the right-hand side where you have a high level of supporter engagement where communications is multi-channel, it's interactive, and it's cross-channel as well. In today's rapidly changing world, your supporters connect through, as we said, many different channels. And while email still continues to be the most widely method of communication, SMS, text messaging, and social media have become primary channels for large growing segments of the population. Still others still prefer phone or even direct mail to communicate. The reality is, to connect with more of your supporters or prospective supporters, you need to communicate with them via their preferred channels. In the last 20 years, while email has become the dominant communication channel, while email open rates remain pretty stable, email click-through rates have steadily declined, which means your supporters may be opening your emails, but they're not taking action as much as before. Perhaps you've noticed this in your own email communications. There's a number of reasons for this. Probably the primary one being that nearly 50% of all email sent today is spam. You just have to look at your own email inbox every morning to realize what's going on there. And while email's effectiveness is declining, text messaging has been on the increase. Right now, if you're not using SMS text in your communications, you're likely missing large groups of prospective supporters who are not email or phone responsive. Multi-channel communication also allows you to leverage channels best suited to different types of communications. For example, if you have an urgent message that requires quick action, text messaging has a 90% read rate within 3 minutes of receipt. And while multi-channel communications has become a necessity, so too has the need for your communications to be mobile focused. If you're like most organizations, the majority of people visiting your website are doing so on their cell phones. This percentage is just increasing. The percentage of people using their cell phones to email is even higher, which means your email also needs to be mobile responsive. Social media visits are also largely cell phone driven. And of course, text messaging and voice calls are all done on the phone. The cell phone is where communications is happening today. So it's clear. Most people use their cell phones to read email, visit websites, browse social media, and of course, answer phone calls and do texting. And if your communication strategy is not mobile focused, you're not connecting with your supporters or prospective supporters in their preferred way. What we'll see here is with the data bank, you have the ability to communicate with supporters via their phones through 5 channels. Communicating across multiple channels will significantly increase response rates on your calls to action. Of course, there are challenges to doing multi-channel communications. First, it can be very complex to plan and execute, especially if you have to work across multiple systems to send to different channels. It can also be costly and time consuming. Opening communications up to additional channels can result in support from new demographics that can challenge your existing understanding of who your supporters are. I've seen this happen, especially with text messaging. New technology and processes can face organizational roadblocks to implement just internally, and then being able to report to your staff and board about results across multiple channels really can be almost impossible if you don't have tools to effectively do this. And while these challenges are real, so are the benefits. And that's why we built tools and integrations in the data bank to overcome these challenges for you. So with the data bank, you can send communications via email, SMS text, website, social media, voice, even direct mail, all in one integrated system. That's 6 channels if you weren't counting. Critical to effective engagement is also allowing your supporters to manage their own data and subscribe to the communications they want in the form they want it. All communication touch points are tracked in the data bank, giving you a full understanding of how each supporter is responding to each type of communication. And because we're building software for nonprofits for 25 years, we know you'd rather be changing the world than trying to figure out another piece of software. So the data bank is easy to use, comes really with the best support in the industry, and for a price that's affordable. Now, let's take a few minutes here to look at what's under the hood. At the core of the databank's communication tools is our proprietary email marketing system, PowerMail. PowerMail, as you see here, offers the same drag and drop email creation tool that you'll find in most other email platforms, with the advantage that it's tightly integrated with the databank's robust CRM database functionality. So creating, sending, reporting on your email communications, all done within the same platform. But PowerMail doesn't just do email. With the click of a button, you can post messages to web page and to your social media properties. So with one tool, you can send your message across multiple communication channels, which is really critical in today's world to get your message heard. So once you have a multi-channel communications going, how do you personalize your message to be more engaging to the recipient? Well, the first step is a good understanding of who your contacts are, which is where the database capabilities of the data bank come into play. Here you see a view of a typical contact record in the system. All of the contacts, demographic, contact, donation, transaction history is stored within the record. In additional personalized data, such as self-identified interests, contact preferences, are available. So individuals can self-select to subscribe to different publications and identify if they prefer email, text, direct mail, voice, or be sent nothing at all. This information can then be used to select records based on specific interests, past actions, and communication channels. The result is your communications will have better open response rates. Is really the key to getting people to take action. Is they first have to open it, but then they have to take some type of action. And as I mentioned, because PowerMail is fully integrated with the data bank, you can use information in an individual's contact record, as you see here, to personalize the message. And you can also see on the left-hand side of the menu that the data bank has additional built-in communication tools besides PowerMail. We have an SMS blast function, allows you to send bulk text blasts out to people who subscribe to those communications. We have a mail merge function that allows you to create personalized direct mail campaigns. Automations gives you the ability to create a sequence of emails to be sent on based on identified trigger actions like making a donation or registering for an event. So one of the keys to having a successful multi-channel strategy, as I mentioned, is having the tools integrated in a way that allows you to work with them effectively, but then also report on them. Now, I mentioned text messaging, and this is an area where I spend a lot of time talking with clients and prospective clients, is how important text messaging is right now to any organization's communication strategy. There are large growing segments of the population out there that are not going to respond to emails, they're not going to respond to direct mail, they're certainly not going to pick up their phone if you try to give them a call, but they will respond to text messaging. And one of the ways that we've added text messaging into the system is you see the SMS announcement, but we've also done an integration with a tool called Call Hub, which I want to show you right now because this is an extremely powerful tool. So Call Hub is a platform that we integrated into the data bank almost 10 years ago now. And since then, we've seen clients use this tool to dramatically increase supporter acquisition and retention. I mentioned before how important the text messaging is becoming. And it's really because of its immediacy and also because of who's using it. And while Call Hub also has great tools to do voice messaging or virtual call center work, it's the texting tools really that provide a great way to easily engage new supporters. And that's with this text to join function. We'll take a look at it a little bit more. With the text join, you can easily create a way for someone to sign up to be a supporter through a series of interactive text messages. Once the person triggers the interaction by texting a keyword to your number, I assume that you've all seen these types of messages, text a keyword to a certain number. The system will automatically engage them in a series of text messages that you've predetermined. This can be used for gathering personal contact information, to be used in future communications. It can also be used for quick surveys to get listener responses to programming or other topics you might have. You can also include links to sign-up pages to be included in the text messages. And the neat thing is once you've engaged somebody via the text sign-up, then it's easy to continue to communicate with them through that channel. Text messaging is not an option in your communication strategy. It's a necessity if you want to acquire and grow your supporter base. And one of the nice things is because of the integration with the data bank, all of that information that gets collected in these text messages automatically gets input into their contact record in the data bank. So I also mentioned that it's important to be able to create and send communication across multiple channels. You need to be able to track and report on how those communications are working. And with all those touch points being tracked in the data bank, we have reports built in there where you can easily see and report across all of those channels. This is critical really to being able to refine your communication strategy to be more effective. So now that we've talked about multi-channel mobile focused communications as one of the primary ways that we work with organizations to help build community engagement, I want to spend the last bit of time talking about the use of online portals to build stakeholder engagement and organizational capacity. So a growing challenge for many of our clients and really organizations in general is how to better use technology to build supporter engagement and organizational capacity. One way that we've been seeing success is through online stakeholder portals. The portals that we built for clients all have unique functions based on each organization's needs and goals. So there's a fair amount of custom work involved with building these portals, but they all share one thing in common. That's a goal to make it easier for stakeholders and staff to do their work for the organization. The results if done correctly, is increased engagement on the part of the stakeholder, increased efficiencies for staff and the organization, and the ability for the organization to expand its reach and impact. Now let's take a look at a couple of these portals and talk about really what it's accomplished for the organization. The first one here I want to take a look at is an organization in Mississippi, the Mississippi Alliance of Nonprofits and Philanthropy. Now, this is a statewide member-based organization. They have both organizations and individuals as members. And one of their challenges was really having a good way to make a better experience for members and provide some extra value for members as part of being a member of the organization. What we did is built a membership portal. In fact, here, I'll just click on this and we'll go take a look at it. So here we are at the live website, and I pre-logged in here with a demo account. Now, one of the nice things that this organization does for members, it provides some member-specific content that is only available to members after they log into the portal. So these publications, these research tools, multimedia resources, all of those are available only through the member portal. This builds a lot of extra value for the member and creates a higher level of engagement for them. Now, the other nice thing about this, let's see here, I'll go to the dashboard here quickly. And just give me a second here. So when a member clicks on their dashboard, they're able to come in here, they're able to see their membership status. They can see their own contact information. There's a way for them to actually edit this information once they're in here. Now, one of the things that this organization does for its members is it provides trainings. So members are able to see what trainings they've done through the organization. We have some trainings where once they've gone through the training, there's a certificate available, and that certificate can then be downloaded within the member portal here. They have a series of trainings called Excellence in Action. A member can see their status of when they have taken those various classes, those types of things. So we just implemented this member portal for the Alliance about 18 months ago. And what we understand is it has really increased member engagement with the organization, that there's been a lot of positives coming from members being able to access this information and really see their engagement with the organization over time. So that's the Mississippi Alliance of Nonprofits and Philanthropy. The next one I want to take a look at is an organization based in Portland, Oregon, called Returning Veterans Project. So Returning Veterans Project is a great organization that mission is to really connect health service providers for free services to veterans within the area. And some of the challenges that they faced in providing this service is that there was a growing need within the community for this type of service. They were working with the clients themselves, the veterans that were looking for the healthcare services, the volunteer service providers, sometimes state or local agencies, as well as their internal staff. So they had multiple stakeholders that they had to relate with. Of course, like so many organizations, they really had limited organizational capacity to manage their existing level of service, let alone expand. And then the final challenge for them is that some of this patient data that we're receiving the services, the data needed to be confidential from the organization itself. It only needed to be, or it could only be seen by the service provider and the client themselves. So in order to address these challenges, we built a service provider portal. We'll take a look at that right now. So this is a portal where once a service provider has been vetted and approved to provide services to veterans through this program, the service provider can come in and see their information, update information. They can track clients that they've been seeing within this. And I should also mention that the initial collecting of health care providers who want to volunteer for this is done through forms set up in the data bank as well. So this portal comes preloaded with the information that the service provider has entered prior to being vetted and approved for the service. And then they can log, once they're vetted and approved, they can log in and manage this information. So it'll show you all of the information that's available on the public website for this. They can edit that information. As I mentioned, they can also put in client information for the clients they're seeing through the program. Now, the nice thing about this is this information that you're seeing in this portal is encrypted, and it cannot be viewed by the organization Returning Veterans Project itself. So that retains client privacy through that. It's important now it's certainly important for the service provider to be able to see this, but also for Returning Veterans Project, because their funding is really dependent in large part the number of service hours that are provided by their volunteer healthcare providers. And so this allows the organization to easily report on those service hours that are tracked here within the service provider portal. And then on the, let's see, I want to go to, sorry about this. I want to go look at their website. I should have pulled this up before. So here we are on their website. So this kind of shows how this extends out to the client's website, the portal. So if I'm a veteran and I'm looking to find a service provider, I can come to their website here, and you can see that there's a directory of service providers. They can select what service they're looking for, and it'll show which providers are available now accepting clients. They can then click on this link to find out more information, and then directly contact this service provider as a result of finding them here on this directory. All of this information that we're seeing here in this online directory is information that has been entered on the back end through the portal. And I should show you one thing here. This checkbox up here that says I'm not accepting new clients. This is where the service provider can determine whether their listing on the online directory shows whether they're accepting new clients or not. So this we implemented about 2 years ago now for Returning Veterans Project. And one of the things that has really been exciting to see is essentially with the same level of organizational resources, same amount of staff, RVP has been able to significantly expand both the number of service providers and number of hours that those service providers are providing through the program, but also be able to expand the geographic area of this program as well, beyond just Oregon into Washington State. So it's really been beneficial to helping the organization expand, build capacity, and create more impact within those communities. All right, so then the last one I want to show, if I can get back there. There we go. Is the Center for Youth Development, which is a program that's run out of the University of Minnesota Extension Program. Center for Youth Development provides all sorts of training and resources around youth leadership development across the state of Minnesota. One of the areas that Center for Youth Development is responsible for is 4-H programs across the state of Minnesota. And for those you might not know about 4-H, it's really a youth program focused primarily on rural youth to help them build leadership and capacity around various rural issues such as farming, livestock, just a whole array of different youth development programs that are run by 4-H. One of the things that 4-H does is they provide judges for various animal livestock shows at fairs around the state. And Center for Youth Development, when they came to us, they had hundreds of people who have volunteered for judging. And one of their challenges was first collecting information from various judges that they needed in order to identify which judge would be good for which event. The second was then coordinating where those judges were able to travel to. Oftentimes, because a lot of this information was usually coming in through written forms, the information was outdated and not correct. And then they also had a lot of challenges scheduling judges for different events. So what we did was build them a judge portal. And we'll go take a look at that. So much like the previous one we saw with RVP, there are forms on the Center for Youth Development's website where judges, people who want to judge, can come in and enter information that gets collected in their application. Then those applicants are vetted by the Center for Youth Development, and once they're approved to be a judge, then they're given access to this portal, where they can come in and they can see all of the information they've input on their application. They can then go through and edit this information if needed. It just goes through all the different steps. This is specific to livestock, which is one of their primary areas that they look for judges. So again, they can input all of their information in here. They also do a lot of non-livestock related judging as well. And then here, because one of the challenges that they really had was figuring out how or where these different judges were willing to travel. And so we built this travel page where judges can identify, which areas, which counties within the state they're willing to travel to, whether they would expect to be reimbursed for that travel time. So now once all this information has been collected by the Center for Youth Development, it's become much, much easier for them to first go into the database and select, okay, we need a judge who's going to judge cows and is going to be available in St. Louis County. So with a simple search within the database, they're able to refine, they're able to identify a list of judges who are willing to judge, and then they can use the built-in communication tools in the system to reach out to those judges and get their commitment to judge various events and fairs. Significantly increase their capacity to work with more events, and created significant efficiencies for the organization as well. So that's kind of a lot to cover right there. I hope that I've provided you with some ideas and ways that organizations can build capacity and create more positive change in your communities. And I really just focused on a couple of these because these are some of the areas where we've seen the most significant impact in helping organizations be more successful in their missions. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Also, if you have questions at a later time or want to contact us for more information, you can certainly send an email to info@thedatabank.com. So any questions for anyone?
I'm not sure if folks do have questions, are you able to unmute? You try clicking unmute if anybody does have a question. Maybe not.
Yeah, I did have a quick question.
All right.
Yeah, I'd just love to hear a little bit more about what you talked about earlier about the complexity of relationships and sort of, sorry, I'm really stuck in some of the contact management and relationship mapping that we'd like to be able to do. And so like if someone is like a participant, but then a returning participant, but also a donor, like I just love to hear a little bit more about how you account for that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, very good question. So of course, one of the main things is having a database that's able to collect all those different, data points and touch points. And let me just see here. If I go back to, I'm going to go back a few slides, if you don't mind. Get the view here. So here we see, as I mentioned, a contact record within the database. And you can see all within one system here. We're tracking activity histories. So these are all the different touch points and ways that an individual has interacted, whether it's received an email or filled out a form or registered for an event or someone placed a phone call to them. So you have that complete activity history. You can also see all their transactional history here. So are they a donor? Have they paid for events? Are they a member? There are other types of transactions in there. And then up here, you'll see Carla's name along with Ben. So there's some really robust relational functions built into the database where you can relate records to one another based on different types of relationships. And so this is often used, say you have an organizational record and then you'll have staff that are part of that organization and you can link them through different types of relationships. In this case, it's a household type of relationship. And then there's some tools based on the type of relationship is that make it easy for you to manage things like address, phone numbers, some of those things that may be shared or common across members in the same household. And you can also see here that there's a number of additional tabs under this person's names. And so we really build the database out to track whatever data points are important for an organization. And those can all be used, of course, to create different types of relational structures within the system as well. Does that kind of answer your question, Justin?
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. I think the follow-up that you also already answered was around sort of how much customization could be possible. But I think that definitely helps illustrate what it could be. So thanks.
Yeah, with the customization, and this is actually one of the areas where I feel like we kind of are different than a lot of the companies out there is we are almost always doing some custom development for clients. It's really an area that we sort of specialize in, and we kind of have what I guess we call the 90-10 rule, where 90% of an organization's needs are going to be met by the core system, which is highly configurable, but it's that 10% that we build some custom functionality on top of that core system that really leverages the system best for our clients. Any other questions? You can answer it this time. All right, well, thank you everyone for attending. And as I mentioned, we'll send a follow-up email to you with a link to this webinar if you want to share it with anyone. And please, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to chat with you at any time. We're here to help nonprofit organizations like you be successful. That's our goal. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope to chat with you all soon. Take care.